it's almost like we have a duty here. You know, somebody should be making better stuff here that doesn't leave you quite so devastated.
Right. Well, I think some of that devastation comes from just watching the sadness in a lot of the performers' faces that you see nowadays. I mean, you really kind of instantly go to, who are they, how did they get there, and how can I help?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The sort of save me instinct, you know? And there's a lot of sort of save me faces in that industry that are just kind of going, you know, almost like they're looking into the lens going, save me, wink, wink, you know? Yeah. You know, in the late 60s, sort of early 70s, when sort of porn was sort of fashionable and okay to see in the theater, you know, as a sort of date movie. You know, the thing, and then, you know, Deep Throat was the highest grossing independent film of all time, you know. Behind the Green Door was happening, but Midnight Cowboy was also happening.
Yeah.
See, what I think what would have happened had it not been for video is that more and more the sort of porn movie would have come closer to, you know, a sort of legitimate, you know, traditional narrative stuff. Traditional narrative stuff moving more towards sort of porno elements.
It kind of did in other world cinemas, like in Japanese, like I Know Corrida and
or Spain
and French movies, on what Pedro does.
Totally, Pedro does it, or even in Betty Blue. One example I've used before is, and it's not sort of doing it to be salacious or anything like that, it's saying like, how interesting would it have been to see Forrest Gump and Robin Wright, you know, and that Robin Wright character make that baby that we see at the end, that sex scene. How does Forrest Gump have sex? You know what I mean? That's a great character, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not trying to sort of just give you a boner to show you Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, you know, see her tits in bed. It's going, what could be more sort of human, or what could be more of a like revelation of a character than watching them have sex? I mean, that says a lot about someone. I think is how they sort of touch another person in bed. I wrote a scene that I kind of wish I'd filmed that I know shouldn't have been in the movie of Boogie Nights, but it was for Don Cheadle's character Buck and his wife Jessie. They decide to have sex, you know, at night. They're sort of lying in bed, and they try and have sex real. They kind of suggest to each other, like, maybe we could try and do this like real, like. And Don starts to fuck up a little bit because he starts saying, "Oh baby, yeah, baby," you know, and she's like, and then he kind of catches himself, and then she starts doing it. It was a very sort of funny, small, tender scene where you kind of watch these two people who are so caught up. We didn't shoot it. I wrote it and we rehearsed it and it was great, but I knew it would never be in the movie. You know?
I think that's really strong.
I couldn't get it in. I couldn't get it in there in any place where I knew that I thought it was sort of taken care of in other places. This sort of like porno people trying to be real people, but. It's so funny because I've been with sort of situation where you're with a girl and suddenly you're like, where did this Elizabeth Berkley Showgirls sex thing come from? Do you think that's sexy somehow? Do you think I'm responding to that? Do you think this flopping around that you're doing is making me excited? Do you know what I mean? And I think there is porno movies have trained a lot of young people how to have sex, unfortunately.
What would you assess the time span on Boogie Nights?
We started shooting in July of '96, shot till October, and then edited from October to October.
Right.
So in '97.
Yeah.
So October '96 we started cutting, finished everything, a week before it came out. Wait until the last minute.
And your first movie?
First movie I shot in 28 days.
Right.
And then only had 3 weeks to do a director's cut, but then sort of got in the whole melee of fighting with this company, which lasted a year essentially,
right? And
backed me into Boogie Nights because I thought my first movie had been taken away from me completely, and the only way that I could deal with that was to go make another movie. So I started prepping Boogie Nights, but in the middle of prepping Boogie Nights, I had sort of essentially stolen back my kind of work print elements and on Sydney, and created.
How did you do that?
Well, I had a dupe. Print made, so I was able to submit that dupe work print to Cannes, and when Cannes saw my cut of the film, they invited it to come in Un Certain Regard, So it was this big deal, and I called Reicher up and I said, "Listen, I know I have a sort of, it's your property. You guys own it. You know, I have pride of authorship, but certainly not pride of ownership here. You guys own it, but I took my dupe work print. I submitted it to Cannes. It's in. This is a big mistake if you guys don't give me some money, let me finish the movie. And they're like, no.
Really?
We're not giving you, we don't care if it's Cannes, we don't care about anything else. The great thing is that they're like a foreign sales company. They go there to sell their product, you know. They go to Cannes and in the marketplace, and here they have a movie that's kind of in competition for in certain regard, you know.
Yeah.
And they're like saying, no, we don't want to be there. First of all, they weren't going to let me go. You know, they weren't going to let me take, you know, even, and I didn't want to go into the fucking Grand Palais with my dupe work print. So I said, let me have the original negative elements. They'd already cut negative on their version, by the way, so I had to essentially I couldn't just match up my dupe work print to my negative. I mean, they'd already cut negative.
Presumably they'd cut into your shots.
Exactly.
So how did you deal with that?
I had to go to alternate takes, which, you know, weren't as good sometimes, but essentially, because there's 3 or 4 very long Steadicam shots, and of course they cut, you know, right into the middle of it.
Can you splice back in now?
You can, but you lose a frame. And it's kind of a great study in what one frame is, because a lot of times you go along and you're like, don't miss it, we feel good, and you're cruising along and you're taking your frames off because you're fixing it and you don't feel it, and then you get to one and you're like, that one frame makes all the difference.
Sure.
It's insane, you know, and you don't want to feel like it does. But it just makes me think of this sort of issue of like, you know, it's funny because we were talking about being in Brussels, and you know, where that sort of, this line is like, you know, the concept that, you know, that no director has final cut, projectionists have final cut, you know, which, you know, I mean, theaters are so fucked, you know what I mean, and you want to kind of go around and go, every theater in America, I mean, this THX is the biggest scam going. It's like, THX doesn't mean anything. It means that George Lucas gets a check to say, to write it, you know, for some theater that's, now we're THX approved, so it sounds good, but it's bullshit. And not to mention all the sort of projectors, you know, you spend all this time and you want it to look right and everything else. But I gotta say that when I kind of come down off my high horse a little bit, I like to kind of, my girlfriend and I went to, like 4 or 5 months after Boogie Nights came out, just walking by this theater on the 3rd Street Promenade, you know, and I was like, let's go in and look at it. And it was this terrible Fuji print, and it just looked terrible. And the scope, the ratio was all fucked up.
That's because New Line have a Fuji deal.
New Line have a Fuji deal, which I've now...
Canada.
Yeah, but now I got rid of that.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. I said, there's no way I'm making a movie here with you guys again unless I get all Kodak prints. And so they signed off on it, which is good. And anyway, so I go to watch this. I'm watching this Fuji print, and it just sounds fucking terrible, and I'm kind of freaking out. But it was long enough after the movie was finished, you know, that I started sort of calming down. I wasn't trying to control every element. And I said, if I can't enjoy this bad Fuji print, this not even good mono kind of soundtrack that's playing here, have I done my job in terms of making the movie? You know, this movie should be able to come off. The story should be able to work. Was it a fucking Fuji print, or it's not even barely mono? You know, what do I do here? Which one do I want to be? Do I want to be the guy that has a fucking Kodak print in here and it's precise and perfect, and that's the only way it can work? Or do I want to be the guy that goes, yeah, I know it looks like shit, it sounds like shit, but you liked it, didn't you? You know, I want to get my
Get your pizza, man. Sorry.
I just want to get one. Oh shit. Yeah.